Okay. Hello everyone. This is Professor Arya Agrawal here from Department of Computer Science and Engineering. So today we will discuss the various operations that can be performed on data structures. Okay. So as we know that the basic primary operation for any data structure is nothing but the creation of its type. Whatever is the data structure we are handling, the main objective is the first operation that has to be performed is the creation operation. So your creation is one of the very basic and primary operation of any data type. Suppose consider if we want to perform any operation on an array. So what is the first thing that we will consider is we have to create an array. We have to create an array. Now in that how it will be created, we will define an array, we will allocate some memory for that array, and we will allocate some values whatever is the appropriate one for from the user, and we'll add some values in that array. Okay. So first basic and primary operation which is to be performed on any data structure is nothing but your creation operation. Either it may be creation of an array, creation of a linked list, creation of a single linked list, creation of a double linked list, anything. So whatever is the thing, you have to just first remember that the basic operation is your creation. Once the data structure is created by you, the next operation is your insertion operation. Okay. So what is insertion operation? Insertion means, generally we mean insertion by adding a something in an existing data structure. So insertion here means that we are adding some new value into an data structure. Either that value may be added to the front, either it may be added to the bottom, depending on the type of data structure you have created. Either it is first in first out, last in first out, or it is a priority queue, or anything, whatever is the data structure you are using. So insertion generally means that you have to add a new element to the data structure. Deletion means removing of an existing element or a node from the data structure. Suppose if we consider an example of an array, here array means we will add a, once an element is existing in an array, we can either display it, we can either view it, and either also we can delete it. The third important operation is that traversal. Traversal means visiting each and every operation in the data structure, in whatever is the data structure you have created, visiting each and every value in that existing data structure at least once. This process is called as traversal. What is searching? Searching is also nearly the same, approximately same as that of traversal, but there is one difference, and that is the important difference between searching and traversing. Suppose consider a scenario that the element is present at the second location, and there are 10 elements in the list. In searching, what will happen is once you element you are searching matches with the element at the second position in the list, at that time it will break from there and it will come out from the search criteria. It will not search third, fourth, fifth, sixth up to 10th element. Okay. Once an element is matched, once a match is found, it will come out of that searching criteria. But this is not the case of traversal. In traversal, you have to definitely visit each and every node at least once. It is compulsory that you have to visit each and every node in the traversal at least once. It is also called as visiting. Here you can see that I have mentioned that yes, you can call it as visiting. This process is also called as visiting. Here we are visiting the values in the data structure at least once. How does it differ from searching? If in searching, suppose in the list, if there are 10 elements and the value you are searching is present at the second element, at that point of time, what you will do is you will just match the value, and the value match is found at second location. It will just match and replay and display a message that search is successful, element found at position 2, and it will just come out of that. Okay. So this is important difference between searching and traversal. Okay. Once we start with every data structure such as array, linked list, you will understand this traversal and searching in much more detail. So don't worry about that. Apart from this 4 or 5 mentioned basic operation, there are some more operations such as sorting, merging, displaying the values. Okay, so these are some of the additional operations that can be performed on data structure. So it includes either you can sort, either you can merge, either you can display the value in the list, whatever the element are currently present in any of the data structure, that element will be checked over here. Okay, next thing, once these operations are completed, next thing, next topic is that we have to understand what is an information and what is the information, what is difference between data and information. Okay, I have also previously explained you what is the difference between an data and what is difference between an information. Now we have to see how an information has to be represented. Okay, we everyone know that whenever the information which we are having is in the process form, then that information is our data. Means in short, if I tell you that whatever the process information is our data, just for basic understanding of the concept, the process information is our data. And information is defined as any type of knowledge, yes, that can be exchanged and always expressed, that is represented by some type of data. Example, I told you yesterday that if you know the values of any number between 0 to 1000, 1500 something, 10,000 something, all numbers are known to you, that is your information. But if you crack a 10 digit mobile number from those numbers, then that 10 digit mobile number is your data. And how this data is being understood, you have identified 10 numbers from available n number of n set of numbers, and those n set of numbers are your information, and the mobile number 10 digit which you have obtained from those is your data. Means you have processed 10 values, 10 digits from a sequence of n number of series, and those 10 digits becomes your data as mobile number. Similarly, if you crack a password, if you uh, if you prepare a password from alphabet, special character as well as numbers, then that also becomes your data. If you try to see some example for this, then information in a book is typically expressed by the observable characters, which is called as the data. And when these characters are combined with a knowledge of the language, such as English or any of the knowledge base, then they are converted into more meaningful information. More meaningful information means we are processing the knowledge and we are trying to create some meaning of that knowledge. Once a knowledge meaning has been created, that is very very equivalent to your data, process of data creation from information. Okay, example, another example, a string of bits, that is the data accomplished by a description how interpret a string of bits as a number representing some temperature observation measured in degree Celsius. Okay, this is how the information is being represented. You can have n number of temperature, but what is recorded, that becomes your representation of an information, and whatever the value is recorded, that value becomes your data. Okay, so if you understand again what is difference between information and data, again a data is a reinterpretable representation of an information. Okay, which is in a formalized manner, means it is being processed, so that is why it is in a formalized manner. Now there are some criteria how the information is processed and what type of data is required, that is having some criteria. So that criteria is a formalized manner suitable for communication, interpretation, or processing. So this information can be used for communication, interpretation, processing, And when these type of operation on informations are performed, that time that information becomes your data. That information becomes your data. So I hope it is clear that what is information and what is data. Okay, how to represent this information? An information that maps a data object into more meaningful concept is called as a representation of an information. How? That ASCII character describes how a sequence of bit. Okay, and from that ASCII character we are able to draw any data object, or we are able to create a password, or we are able to create a symbol. Then that will be our data from the process information. Okay, so this is how an information, when it is processed, it becomes our meaningful data. And when we have data, then we can group this data into some particular type that will constitute a data type, and these data types then again can be added to some data structure, and this is how we the group the data into some particular structure from a single entity, and that entity is your information. So this is how it works. This is how information is processed, then it becomes your data, then data becomes your data object, then data object is mapped into data type, then data type is mapped into some data structure, and then data structure is grouped into some type of organization, and that organization will be having some equivalent data. Okay, I hope you have understood this. Next thing is that algorithm. What is algorithm? So any problem which we are having, that problem, every problem has some solution. In order to solve any of the problem, we have to definitely write some steps as a part of solution in order to solve that problem. Now algorithm is nothing but it is a finite sequence of steps that a user takes in order to solve that problem. Okay, algorithm is a user defined process in which a user has to note down some steps in order to solve that problem, has to write down. And definitely I have used one term as finite. That means that whatever is your problem, that problem should have a finite number of steps as its solution, and these steps has to be written down on a piece of paper so that we can have a equivalent solution from that. N number of problems, n number of n number of solutions, or n number of algorithm can be written for a same problem. Okay, suppose if I give you a task that I want to calculate the area of a circle, and if I tell you to write an algorithm that will calculate me the area of a circle. So if I give this task to n number of students, every student will write in their own ways. First they will identify, first step will be start, second step identify the formula for area of a circle, third step identify what is the value of pi, then take a value of radius as input, then multiply or compute the radius square, and then finally answer area of a circle is equals to pi multiplied by r square. So whatever is the number of steps, so if I take this, I require 6 steps. Somebody will write in 2 steps only. First they will write step number 1, area of a circle equals to pi r square. Here take the value of pi r as input, value of pi is constant already known. They will take r, value of r, that is the radius, as input, calculate a square multiplied by pi, and that is your answer. So in 2 steps they will get an answer, in 6 steps they will get an answer. So what is this? This is what I am trying to explain, that a same problem may have different solution, but the answer will be the same. If you calculate r square radius for any number, pi r square for any radius, all steps may vary. Somebody will write in 2 steps, somebody will write in 4 steps, somebody will write in 6 steps, but what is What will never change is that the answer will always remain the same. Okay. So algorithm is nothing but it is a mention of some finite steps in order to solve a problem. So every time whenever we face any problem, that time definitely we write an algorithm in order to solve that problem. Okay. This algorithm is user defined. User can write this algorithm is in his own way. Okay. So in his own way also he can write an algorithm. So don't worry. So algorithm is nothing but it is a basic finite steps that a user write in order to solve any problem. Okay. For every type of problem, we have to definitely write an algorithm. The process of developing a program starts from this process itself. Okay. The process of developing a program starts from algorithm. Means I can say that algorithm is the very first step for you to write a program. Algorithm is the very first step for you to write and understand any C program, because once you know, you understand what is the problem, then only you will try to write a solution or a piece of code for that. So if you don't know what is your problem, how you will calculate the area of a circle, area of a rectangle, how will you calculate a factorial? If you don't know what is the formula, how to process, then it will be very difficult for you to write any program for that process. Okay. And that is why some students find programming as somewhat difficult, because they focus on only program, but the main thing which has to be taken into focus is your algorithm. First they have to understand what is the problem, how we can overcome from that problem. Okay. Algorithm, as said earlier, that these are finite and are user defined steps. Okay. These are algorithm should be finite, it should be clear, so that suppose if I am writing an algorithm, it should be understood by me as well as the person, third person who is reading that algorithm, it should be understood by him also. So algorithm should be finite, it should be clear, it should be easy to understand, and it should be user defined. Definitely it is user defined process. Many algorithm can be written in order to solve the given problem, but remember that what at the end of the steps, what will happen, you will get a unique answer. Suppose if you are writing, if you want to calculate area of a circle, then if you give the value of r equals to 2, then definitely all the persons who are writing algorithm will get the same answer as an area. The number of steps for writing algorithm may vary, but answer will be same. Okay. Algorithm can be expressed in three ways: in any natural language such as English, whatever is the language which is easily accessible to the user, then that language, in that language algorithm has to be written. Now definitely which is the language comfortable for us is definitely English. So we can write all these steps in English language, in programming language, or in the form of a flowchart. See, first step for developing a program is algorithm. Second step is creating a flowchart. In algorithm, you will understand the problem, you will write the steps. In flowchart, you will just uh, wait a minute. Hello, hello, hello. So the next step for this is your flowchart. So whatever is the steps you have written, you have to give a diagrammatic representation for the steps which you have written, and those diagrammatic steps are your flowchart. Those diagrammatic steps is your flowchart. Okay, so once an algorithm is written and completed, the next step is the flowchart. This algorithm and flowchart help a user to understand the problem more clearly. Once a user understands the problem more clearly, then at that time what will happen is, at that point of time, it will move very closer for coding. You will move a bit step closer towards coding. And then if you apply these steps and follow this process, then you will find that programming is very, very simple. Okay. So this is an sample algorithm. Suppose we have to write an algorithm to multiply two numbers and display the result. Okay. So here I have written two steps. In two ways the algorithm can be written. Suppose user A is writing algorithm in a 7 steps and user B is writing algorithm in steps 5. So you can see the difference. As told previously, algorithm can be written in n number of steps by n number of users. Each user is independent of writing his own number of steps for an algorithm. These steps should be finite, it should be clear, and it should be understood. Okay. So I request you everyone to take a screenshot of this so that it will be easy. Okay. Now, next thing which we will take into consideration is the efficiency of an algorithm. See, whenever we are writing an algorithm, definitely that algorithm has to be efficient. Why it has to be efficient? Because using the number of steps that we have written in that algorithm, now we will try to code that number of steps into program. Okay, so writing an algorithm doesn't require your resources, your computing resources. But whenever you try to write a program from that algorithm, that program will definitely read some of your computing resources of your machine. Computing resources, by this I mean that it will definitely require some memory, it will require some CPU attention by the compiler to compile and execute your program. It will definitely allocate some memory, it will definitely take some input from you, it will process those input and it will display that output. So these steps are a part of program, and when we try to program, we focus on the algorithm which we have written. So this makes that the algorithm must be very, very efficient for any type of problem. Okay. So once an algorithm is efficient, then definitely we can try to write a code which will be very easy for us. Okay. So algorithm efficiency is nothing but the properties of the algorithm which related to the amount of resources used by the algorithm. So here initially amount of resources is nothing but it is the resources or the time used by the user in order to write the steps of any solution for the given problem. Okay. Analyze algorithm to determine its resource usage. Okay. Means whatever the algorithm steps we have written, whatever the number of steps we are writing, that step should give me an productive result. So once that result is productive, then only I can say that my algorithm is a very effective algorithm or an efficient algorithm. Main objective for writing this algorithm is to minimize the resource usage by any machine. The efforts required by the user should be minimum so that it should easily be able to solve the problem in minimum number of steps which are finite, which is clear, and which is ready to code. So if everything is clear, then then an algorithm will be called as an efficient algorithm. Okay. So this is an example of an efficient algorithm, and these are nothing but the characteristics which have to be followed by each and every user while he is writing algorithm. Okay. So this is nothing but the characteristics of an efficiency for an algorithm. And each algorithm must have some specification. Definitely, what is the type for which the algorithm is being created, some precondition, such as if you calculate the area of a circle which is pi r square, definitely precondition is that you should know what is the formula. You should know what is the value of pi. If you don't know this condition, then it will be very impossible for you to create and display the area of a circle. Third step is nothing but the body of the algorithm. In this, I mean by a sequence of clear and ambiguous instructions. Okay, a sequence of clear and ambiguous instructions are nothing but a body of the algorithm. Previously told you that the steps which a user is writing should be clear and it should be easy to understand and it should be limited, finite, because nobody loves to read a paragraph or long lengthy sentence. Everyone is quite happy reading whatever is the solution to the problem in finite or minimum number of steps. Okay, so that's why algorithm should not be written in much more paragraph style. It should be written in point wise, it should be written in short, it should convey full meaning, and it should be clear. And the post conditions, what is required in the output, the conditions which is required for the basis of performing input output, that is the post condition. So definitely each algorithm must have first one specification, precondition, body of the algorithm, and the last one is the post condition. Okay, so when a user try to follow these four steps, then we can say that the algorithm may be an efficient algorithm. Okay, then at that time we can say that algorithm is an efficient algorithm. So for again calculating the efficiency, we have some technical parameters which will measure the performance of an algorithm. For that we have three parameters. The first one is the worst case, second one is the best case, and third one is the average case. In worst case, what will happen is the maximum number of steps that an algorithm take to solve any problem. Suppose if I give you an example, suppose if I have 100 number in the list. Okay, consider an example. This example will help you to understand this concept very better. Suppose if I have 100 numbers in a list, I am searching for a number. Suppose I am searching for a number 99. I have total 100 numbers, random numbers, not 0, 1, 2, 3. Any 100 random number. I want to search 99 is present in those 100 number or not. Suppose this value 99 may be present or may not be present. Okay, so output will be, it will be this, there will be two possibilities. If a match is found 99, it will show that element is present. If it is not present, it will tell me that element is not found in the list. How the search will be done? I will start comparing 99 with the first value. I will match whether the first value is 99. No. If the answer is no, then I will move to second value. If it is a match is found, I will display result match is found. Otherwise, I will tell no. Again, third time, fourth time. Suppose this keep on searching everything till the last element. Suppose 99 is found at the 99th location or at the 100 location. Suppose 99 is found at the 100 location, means I have 100 numbers and the 100 number in the list is 99. So I have a match found. Okay, I have a match found, that is 99 is present at the 100 location in the list. Okay, 99 is present at the 100 location in the list. So in this what happens, the every element has been compared and the system is utilizing its maximum time. Okay, so this type of efficiency is the worst case efficiency. Suppose if I have the same number and if I the 99 is present at the first location. Suppose if I want to search 99 and then that 99 is present at the first location. So what will this will be your best case, because 99 is found at the first location itself, so it will skip 99, another 99 elements, it will not search for those 99 elements because the match is found at the first location. So this type of efficiency is your best case efficiency. Here you will get the output in first comparison itself. In worst case, you have to perform 100 comparison because 99 was present at the 100 location. In best case, your 99 is present at the first location. So this is your best case. In worst case and best case, again there occurs a third case, and that is the average number of steps required in order to find 99. Suppose 99 will be placed at some 45th or 60th location in the list, then the average number of comparison which is required in order to find 99 in the list, in the middle of list, at that time this type of efficiency is called as an average case efficiency. Remember that in worst case efficiency, more amount of computation, more amount of memory will be required. In best case efficiency, less amount of computation and low memory will be wasted. Yeah, very negligible or low amount of memory will be wasted. So if we try to define worst case, then it is the maximum number. See here I have written, it is the maximum number of steps that can an algorithm take to solve a problem. And best case, it is the minimum number of steps. Okay. And for average, we will say that average number of steps, for all average number of steps. Okay. So this is the difference between worst case, best case, and average case. What are these? These are the parameters to evaluate the efficiency of your algorithm. Whatever algorithm you have written, in order to measure the efficiency of that algorithm, we have these parameters. You cannot say that I have written the algorithm in a very neat English language, so this is my efficient algorithm. No, you cannot say like that. So there are certain technical parameters to measure the efficiency of your algorithm, and that efficiency is being calculated by worst case, best case, and average case. Okay. So this is nothing but your efficiency to calculate an efficient. These are the parameters to calculate the efficiency of an algorithm. Okay. Again, next thing is the time complexity of an algorithm. These things we will discuss in the next lecture. Okay.